And we're live. This is Sunday, March 22nd. There are 108 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2015, and even less until WonderCon. In fact, we're less than 2 weeks away from WonderCon. Welcome to the SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog. I am your host, Carrie Dixon, and joining me today is my cohort, James Riley.
Hello, everybody.
As well as outside Comic-Con, Kim Twombly. Hello. And, of course, Sean Marshall, formerly known as The Confluence, and now Parks and Cons.
Hey, guys.
Hey. All right, so we've got a really special episode for you guys today. We are going to be breaking down the WonderCon schedule, because all 3 days were actually released on Thursday this week, whereas normally we wouldn't even have gotten the completed schedule until today. So that was a nice little surprise. And there's also something happening next week. Does anyone have any ideas what that might be?
Tuesday? Tuesday happens every week.
That's true. That's very true.
What is happening on Tuesday?
It would be the hotel sale, the general hotel sale, which happens every year. And as we lovingly call it, it is Hotel Apocalypse. So. Yes. That's going to be happening on Tuesday, March 24th, as James just said, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And for those of you that don't know, the way that that's going to work is you are basically going to have to type like your life depends on it, because at 9 a.m. that form is going to go live on Travel Planner's website, and everybody should have been emailed a link today to that site. But once it goes... Yes, early this morning, you should have been emailed a link. But once it goes live, you're going to have to fill in all of your information, including the 6 hotels that you want ranked in order of preference. They've started 2 years ago, I believe, where you had to choose the 6 hotels that you wanted. If all of those hotels happen to fill up, then you can click to be slotted somewhere downtown, somewhere anywhere there's availability, that kind of thing. But let's talk a little bit about the hotel cell, guys. What's been your experience with the hotel cell the last couple of years, James? What advice do you have?
Have people who can give a room to you, because that's about the only way I've been able to get a decent room, because I suck at the form, apparently. I've always gotten like Mission Valley or farther out hotels, typically, because apparently I'm a slow typer.
And there's nothing wrong with Mission Valley. Like, Sean, you stay out there pretty much every year, don't you?
Yeah, we don't do the hotel. I've never done the hotel sale. I don't know anything about it, actually. So we always book outside the system somewhere, usually at varying points of the year. We kind of just keep searches and find things somewhere out, Mission Valley or something like that. So, yeah, and we like it. I mean, for us, the big deal is parking. That's the huge thing, because we want to be able to go to the car several times a day to drop stuff off, so that's huge, whereas the hotels are a little bit of a walk for us, even when they're right next door in terms of dropping stuff off and things like that.
Yeah. What about you, Kim? You've done the hotel cell, right?
Right, and I've had luck past 2 years, so with the new system, I've had a lot of luck, but previously I've just... nothing's happened, and that's fine. It always works out, because there's always people, as long as you have your core group of people, attendees, that someone will likely have a hotel for you, or random strangers sometimes. So, it's all about the Comic-Con family and making it work. And I prefer staying in downtown, because living in San Diego, if I was to get a hotel in Mission Valley, there's really no point. I might as well just stay at home. So downtown allows me to, and my roommates, to kind of have the most fun during Comic-Con.
Well,
so, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for you as well. And I know I kind of have the same experience as you, because obviously I'm not coming from in town, but I don't have a car because I'm flying in. And so for me, staying downtown is so much easier, because even though there's the shuttles, there's taxis, there's the trolley, there's a million other ways where you can get downtown, the option to just be able to walk out your door and walk straight to the convention center, like, you can't beat that. You really can't. But having said that, I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize just how hard the hotel cell is if you've never done it before. You're thinking, oh, it's a hotel. How hard can this really be? It's hard. It's nearly impossible. I think we've figured out that if you don't fill your form out within about 2.5 to 3 minutes, you're not getting a hotel. And we don't just mean you're not getting a hotel downtown. We mean you're not getting a hotel in this sale. The downtown hotels typically go in like a minute 15, that kind of thing. And basically what they do, what Travel Planners does is when you submit your form, they base it by the timestamp that you submitted, and then that's how they assign you a hotel. And if your number 1 hotel is full up, then they move on to your second choice. If number 2 is filled up, they go on to number 3, that kind of thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting on Tuesday. And unfortunately, you won't know that day what hotel you got because, like we just said, they have to kind of go through the timestamps and assign based on that. But within, I think, 2 days, by March 26th, they will have assigned you your hotel. And then from there, you will have 72 hours to go ahead and pay the deposit, which is 2 nights of the rate for whichever hotel room you got assigned. If you don't want it, you just don't have to pay. About how that works.
I attribute the feeling of doing this hotel sale to basically the last 60 seconds of an eBay auction with none of the immediate gratification payoff.
That's pretty accurate, yeah. There are a couple things, though, that you can do to try to help your odds. The biggest suggestion that I have, honestly, is we've got a visual guide for the hotel sale up on the site. Go check that out because it helps to know ahead of time exactly what questions are going to be asked, what the form's going to look like, so you're not surprised. Like I was just telling them earlier today, it always kind of throws me off every year when the form launches because before it even gets to the form, it actually lists all of the hotels and the prices. And it always kind of throws me off that you can either scroll down through that or there's a little button to click that says skip down to form, but you have to remember to do that if you aren't expecting that when you first open the form. The other thing that you need to do is have your 6 hotels written down in exactly as they appear. So, for instance, if you want to stay at the Hilton Bayfront, you need to know that that's really like, I think, the San Diego Hilton Bayfront. So you need to know that that'll be in the S's alphabetically. That kind of
I
thing.
have a question for how the pull down works, just to make sure that people understand it. So when it's a pull down, if you hit the S, it goes to the S's, right?
Correct. Yes.
If you hit A after that, does it go to SA or does it go up to the A's?
I believe it goes up to the A's.
So you just hit the first letter, then
Yes.
find it, and click on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I've done every year. But yeah. The other thing is you might try to be a little bit strategic about which 6 hotels you pick. So for instance, you might not want to pick the top 6 hotels, and even though this is completely unscientific, we did a reader poll this weekend about what are people's number 1 hotel picks. And it's still going through the end of tonight, so this isn't totally finalized, but I think this is probably relatively accurate to what it's going to wind up being. So what do you guys think the number 1 pick was?
It's got to be either the Bayfront or the Omni, most likely. Maybe the Hard Rock.
Yep. You've pretty much named 3 of the top 4. Number 1 is the Bayfront. We had 51 votes for that as people's number 1 pick. And number 2 was the Omni with 39 votes. Number 3 is actually the San Diego Marriott Marquis and Marina, which is just on the other side of the convention center from the Bayfront.
So essentially the 3 of the very closest hotels to the convention center itself.
Exactly. And number 4, with that same logic in mind, is the Hard Rock.
Right.
Number 5 is the Manchester Grand Hyatt, which is kind of on the other side of the Marriott. And then number 6 are 2 hotels I'm not that familiar with, but the Embassy Suites and the Bristol Hotel.
The Embassy Suites is really awesome for people who have 4 like individuals staying in a room because there's that extra. It's the 2-room suite for every room there, and also because it has that nice full breakfast for those who don't necessarily get to the con super early. It's great for people who go to just do some shopping, some cosplaying, things like that, and don't need to be up at 3 a.m. to get in line somewhere. It's great. All that room for the cosplay plus free breakfast, full breakfast, not just donuts and coffee, but you can get omelets and everything. So,
And the Dunkin' Donuts is attached right to it.
Oh, it is now.
The only one in, well, it used to be the only one in California, except for the Pendleton one. And I was just there this morning getting Dunkin' Donuts, and they've completely redone the lobby. It used to have kind of, 80s style, so they've completely redone it, so it looks really nice.
So it was previously like lots of trees and bushes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think the last time I stayed there was probably right around 2001, I think, 2002 maybe. No, 2007, sorry. 2007.
It's still a really quick walk to the convention center from there. So,
yeah.
Even hotels that are, you think 10 blocks away is far, or 8 blocks, it's a quick walk in downtown. We have short blocks in downtown San Diego, so it's an easy walk.
Yeah. And basically what that poll should be telling you is, if you're worried about, you just want to stay downtown, you don't care that much which hotel, don't pick those top 6 as your only 6. Go ahead and throw in an option that, like Kim said, is maybe 10 blocks away, but it's not one of those top 6, because that means it might not be quite as quick to fill up. So that's my personal suggestion.
Yeah, just have, even if you do pick 5 of them, maybe just put that one safety in as the 6th choice.
Yeah, that's basically our suggestion. But do you guys have anything else to say about the hotel sale?
Good luck, everybody. It's gonna be madness, and then it's a couple days of wait, right? They're not gonna start emailing till the 26th.
Correct. And actually, I do want to say this. Every year, everybody kind of freaks out because they're like, oh my god, my friend got their hotel room, whatever, and I didn't yet. What does that mean? The way that they email it out is like, if you got assigned to, they email them out in alphabetical order of the hotel that you wound up in. So if you got assigned to the Courtyard Marriott, you were going to get your email before the San Diego Hilton Bayfront, because C obviously comes before S, that kind of thing. So it takes a couple hours for all of those emails to go out, but basically it'll go out in alphabetical order of the hotel that you were assigned to. And we get that question every year of, like, what kind of order is this? So don't freak out. And if you guys have any questions, don't forget too that if you're watching on the Google Hangout, you can ask us questions and we will see them and we can answer them. But let's go ahead and move on then to WonderCon.
Yay!
Yay! All right, so we're going to do this basically the same way that we do every year. We're going to go over the main rooms, and then we'll be talking a little bit about some smaller panels that maybe you didn't see on the schedule, maybe you overlooked. We're going to be talking about the arena, which, just to give you guys an idea of how big these rooms are and how many people can fit in, we went ahead and wrote down the capacities. The arena is by far the biggest room at WonderCon, and that fits about 7,500.
Even bigger than Hall H.
Yep, even bigger than Hall H. And then the 300s are split into A and B and D and E, and both of those fit about 1,500 people. And then we're also going to be talking about room 208, which is tiny compared to those, but it's got some good stuff in it, and that room fits about 290 people. So
is that the largest of the small rooms?
I don't know. I know that for my money it had some decent-sized panels, so I would assume.
Because I think a lot of those rooms are around the same size.
Yeah.
Right. On the arena and the 7,500, that's before they cut a lot of the room out, right, with the way they stage it?
It might be, yeah.
So I think what it comes down to is about $4,000.
Okay.
After they cut that out, because of the way at least they usually set it up for like that in D23. Because if it's like full arena, it's much larger, but they cut out about 40% of the room or something like that.
Gotcha. All right. Before we get too deep into the schedule, we did just have a question from Melody Torres, so let's go ahead and answer this. She asked, going back to the hotel cell, do you guys know if more than one person in your party can sign up for the hotels on Tuesday? And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. As many people as you want can sign up. But the only thing is, if you get a room and your friend gets a room and the names match, you will get a call from travel planners that basically states the names on these rooms match. Which one do you want to cancel? And so, yeah, just be aware of that. Don't freak out when you get that call, though. If you don't need 2 rooms, you can always give it off to somebody else, or you can just not take the room. But definitely 2 people can try.
Yeah. And yet, if they're not going to call and cancel both rooms. They're just going to cancel one.
And they will ask you which one do you want to have canceled. So, yeah. They're very good about that. All right. So, who wants to tackle the arena for Friday?
I guess I will.
Go for it.
Okay, so the arena it really doesn't have a ton in there. It's almost like a combination Wednesday, Thursday of Comic-Con. The first thing at noon is the 16th annual animation show of shows, which basically is a collection of shorts, animated shorts. So if that's your thing, then go ahead and hit on in there. It looks like this is 2 hours long, which I can watch cartoons for 2 hours. I know that. Second up, 2:30 is IDW Publishing, focused on artist editions. IDW is the local publisher down in San Diego, and they are actually growing to be, I think, right around the 4th or 5th largest publisher right now. So they're up there, and they're going to be talking about their artist editions, which are those really special projects, awesome things that they put together of a bunch of different comics. If you've ever seen one, they look really nice. Then at 2:30, which I don't know how they can do both of those at once, that IDW must be in the wrong room.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think so.
Yeah.
So that's not in there. It's on the list as an arena, but I don't think it's actually in the arena. Because the preview screenings are at 2:30.
Yeah.
So the preview screenings are, just like they sound, they're screenings of shows, and this is what the WB does normally at preview night at Comic-Con. In this case, it's The Flash and Gotham and iZombie, which just premiered this week, and an episode of Teen Titans Go. That's going until 5:30. And then the world premiere of Batman vs. Robin, the new animated movie, which is also something that I think they are doing almost every year at WonderCon now, is premiering one of the latest DC animated movies.
Yeah,
and this one will have... What?
No, I was going to say, I think, yeah, it's been like since 2007 or something, so you're right, that's become like a staple of the show, is that big premiere night of their new animated show. And
they'll show the movie, and then they will have a panel featuring Jason O'Mara, voice of the Batman, Stuart Allen, voice of Robin, Sean Marr from Firefly, and some of the producers and creators, including writer, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, J.M. DeMatteis, or whatever. Do you know that, Sean, how to pronounce his name?
DeMatteis.
DeMatteis, there you go. So it's a bunch of people. That should be awesome, and that's going to end the day, it looks like, in the arena. That's going to go until 8 p.m.
Does Sean, since you probably know better than us, does the DC premiere film, does that usually fill up in the arena?
It does get pretty packed. I think like way up in the back that there's probably still room throughout, but it gets a good chunk filled. But getting there about 5:45, 6 o'clock is more than fine, at least for us. If you want to ask a question, because they do the big panel afterwards, and a lot of people gets a really long line for the panel questions, then you may want to get there a little bit closer to 5 or something like that, Teen Titans Go time or something like that. But yeah, looking with Teen Titans Go before it too, and Gotham and all of that, I can see some people maybe just sticking around anyway from some of that crowd. But yeah, we've always been fine getting there about 5:45, 6.
I think that's by far the biggest thing in that room that day. The screenings, I feel like, never have that many people watching.
Right.
I mean, there's a decent amount, but not that much. It is worth mentioning, though, on the screenings that sometimes they're first-run episodes. Like, it looks like iZombie, at least, is debut with an advanced screening of a brand new upcoming episode. So you'll get to see it before it's on TV, which is pretty cool if you're into TV.
Right.
But that's
and you can
about
come and go. And if you're only a fan of one, you can just come and go and figure out when it's going to show and just show up for that one, and there'll be seats where you can see the screen, and the screen in the arena is gigantic, so you'll be able to see it from pretty much anywhere in the arena and have a decent view. It's not like at Comic-Con where all the Hall H well, the Hall H screen is bigger now, but further back you have those smaller screens up above, which is a little harder to see. But this is just one giant screen, and everything's close because of the layout of the arena being the tiered seating.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's the arena on Friday, unless you guys have anything else to say about that. But that's definitely not the only room that has stuff going on. Kim, do you want to do a 300 AB, or you want me to?
I can do it. I just need to open the right tab.
It is important. Woo.
So Friday we've got how to get a job in video games. I'm probably not going to be very good about this, but other than reading them. So it doesn't start till 1:45 on Friday. How to get a job in video games for an hour, and then at 2:45 is Wayward Pines, which is Netflix, I want to say?
It's not Netflix. I think it's Fox, but it's basically the new M. Night Shyamalan show.
And it doesn't have any guests listed yet, so maybe that's to be determined, but there's supposed to be a Q&A following the screening of the episode.
Actually,
the press release announced who's going to be there.
Oh.
I know who's going to be there. It is, let's pull this up. It is Reed Diamond, and Tim Griffin, who was an American Sniper, as well as the executive producer Donald DeLine. So, no Matt Dillon, no M. Night Shyamalan.
Bummer.
But Reed Diamond was recently in Franklin and Bash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
And then at 4 we've got Last Man on Earth, which I've been enjoying. So I think they're up to episode 4 or 5, and Will Fortnate's going to be there. So
well, and Chris Miller and Phil Lord are pretty big names these days.
Yeah.
Actually, they directed the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street. Like, those are some decent names.
So that's going to be a good panel. I hope I can. Well, I'm not going on Friday, which is sad. So then at 5 we've got 2015, the greatest geek year ever? ? Which looks like they're discussing just what's happened this year, or what will be coming out this year with Age of Ultron and Jurassic World and the new Terminator. So just a panel of kind of people that know Hollywood, know sci-fi, to talk about what's coming out this year. And then at 6, it's Salem. It's a Witch Tour, talking about that series with a bunch of people from the show, and Brandon Braga, executive producer.
Shane West. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a good panel. I don't see a screening, but just talking about the series.
And most of it looks like at least some of the cast is there. Like Shane West is there, Janet Montgomery, Seth Gable. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But what were you going to say, James?
At the very bottom it says the screening will be followed by an audience Q&A, so they will be showing something.
There you go.
It looks like a sneak peek of Season 2.
Yeah. I don't think, considering this room holds 1,500 people, I wouldn't think Wayward Pines is going to be super busy. The Last Man on Earth, I think, of those panels is going to be the biggest, just because Will Forte is a name that most people know. And then, like I said, for my money, Chris Miller and Phil Lord are actually names that you all should know.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to be too hard to get into any of those panels. I think show up maybe 30 minutes early for Last Man on Earth, maybe 15 for the rest. Would you guys agree with that? Yeah.
Again, as always, case, just depending on where you want to sit. I don't think you're going to have to worry about finding a seat on any of these, even probably mid-panel, if you want to just stop in for a few.
Yeah. So that's 300 AB on Friday, and then we've got 300 DE, which, Sean, do you have these pulled up?
Sure. Yeah. So first off, 12:30 is Batman. So they're celebrating the 75th anniversary, and it doesn't have quite the same names that it had last year, kind of coming into the 75th, but it still has a good range of people with Becky Cloonan, Tom King, Greg Pak, some of the special guests for the weekend. That one usually gets pretty crowded. Of all the comic panels, it's usually about the most crowded. So, but we'll see. It doesn't have the main writer or artist. So, after that, 1:30 is Crime Does Not Pay, or Does It? which is looking at the crime genre of comics with some of the top comic writers and artists in that area right now. So Steve Epstein and Phil Noto are some of the big ones doing like Black Widow and Velvet, and Mark Andrecchio, Darwin Cook. So it's a kind of an all-star of that, again, of that genre. 230 is creating a new Dawn for Planet of the Apes. So this is one that definitely was on my list of interest. So they're basically going into the effects for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I've enjoyed all the Planet of the Apes films over the years quite a bit, and so that's kind of an interesting one. With the visual effect producer will be there, and the pre-visualization supervisor as well. Then 330, I think they've done this a couple times now, but the art of the pitch. So Disney, ABC creative talent development programs, talking about how some of the favorite shows come to life and how they pitch those to bring them to the screens.
It's like Comic-Con every year too.
Is it? Okay, cool. 430, Hollywood Consultants Secrets, Your Story to Success. This is the one I'm the least familiar with. It didn't really hit for me, but can you be a star in 30 seconds? The biz won't give you much more than that. Elite Hollywood consultants will advise you on how to seize the spotlight. Optimal story, strategy, and style. It's kind of a how-to to get out there. 530 was one that I had on my list of us maybe trying to hit, but writing for animation. Mark Evanier is a big-time kind of writer in comic books as well. He has a panel, I think I have, maybe it's one of my dark horses for one of the days. But anyway, he's done Garfield, and Dungeons and Dragons, and the Wuzzles, Yogi Bear, Superman, Thundar, Scooby-Doo, a lot of stuff. So it's just kind of a fun nostalgia panel to hear somebody that's been a part of the craft for so long, talking about his work and sharing those stories. And he's a very charismatic speaker. So if you have any interest at all in animation, that would be a great one to hit. And then finishing out at 6:30, Geek and Sundry's trivia game. So Geek and Sundry family of Twitch channel hosts of the audience are tested in their geek culture knowledge to cap off the night, ending at 7:30.
So, not a whole lot of crossover, I don't think, between all those panels. If this is your first year at WonderCon, it's a very different show than Comic-Con. It's not one of those, like, sit in the panel room all day kind of things. It's basically just go to the panels that you want, which is kind of refreshing. But let's take a look at room 208, which of the rooms that we are covering is the smallest. It's got about 290 people that it can fit in there, and it's starting off with the Sergio and Mark show at 12:30 on Friday. I don't know that much about this, but apparently
we have some friends that's like the highlight of every con for them is them. So Pink Bunny and LA Rabbit that follow along with us, they love them, and they are, I guess, very good. And again, Mark Evanier is very charismatic, so might be a fun one for people.
These guys have been doing panels for a long time, so they're panel veterans, and they know how to keep a panel lively and entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, go check that out at 12:30 then on Friday. But at 1:30, it is the spotlight on Cullen Bunn, who has written some comics like The Damned and The Sixth Gun. And for those of you who don't know, the spotlight panels are basically like the Comic-Con International. These are the special invited guest panels. And so that's what that is. And then after that, at 2:30, is Spinner Rack Revolution, The Secret History of Free Speech and Magazine Comics, which is going to be talking a lot about 60s and 70s magazines. Sounds kind of cool. And then at 3:30 is Valiant 101 about Valiant Comics. And they'll be talking about what's coming up for them.
Yeah, one thing I was going to add on that, I don't know if you guys saw, but Valiant got like a huge, like, I don't know, however, hundreds of millions of dollars of deal to create a movie universe. So it's kind of, I mean, who knows if it'll work or not, but there's going to be a lot of going on with movies, games, and TV in the Valiant universe. So this might be a good introduction for people that want to get started in something. It's not quite as old as something like DC or Marvel either, so it might be a little bit more accessible for some people. And they have some great stories, like really good stuff too.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing.
There you go. At 4:30 is Oddball Comics Live, which has cartoonist Scott Shaw doing a slideshow of the craziest comic books ever published. So that might be kind of funny.
Yeah.
At 5:30 is Boom Studios, talking about From Page to Screen, and this one actually does sound pretty interesting. They've got a lot of titles in the works for TV and film, and they're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on with all of that. And then at 6:30 was originally Fanfic Theater with Chris Gore, but I don't know if you all have heard, that actually got canceled due to some backlash.
Yep.
And then, instead, who knows if anything's going to be between that, but at 7:30 is Nerdist News Live, which this is not the Chris Hardwick panel, this is Jessica Chobot, and she will basically just be catching you up with the news from Nerdist. And then at 8:20, to continue with that theme, we've got Nerdist Gaming with Malik Forte, and again, that's just the Nerdist people talking about games. So if you like that team, check those out. At 9:10, which is pretty late, is Pop My Culture. Comedic actors and improvisers Cole Stratton and Vanessa Ragland are going to be talking.
Sounds like it's a kind of a comedy panel act, possibly kind of thing going on, which probably put it that late because it might be a little bit more adult in nature, possibly. But who knows? That's a long day in one room there.
That is a long day in one room, yeah. So that's definitely not the only thing going on Friday. Sean, what else is going on Friday?
Some that I had, toy collecting in the modern era at 1:30 and 2:13 is kind of interesting because there's a good range of guests from people that are actually creating toys that have worked for Mattel or Jakks Pacific or things like that, Biff Bang Pow and all of those, and they'll be coming together and just talking kind of about where toys are at now, so that's kind of interesting. And then there's a lot of great spotlights and comic things, but two that really stood out is at 2 in room 211 is Neil Adams, and so he's kind of the father of a lot of comic history now, and so he's one of those guys, not the same name maybe as Stan Lee, but he's a must-see, I think, if you're interested in comics at all, and a very blunt and good storyteller. And then at room 211 at 3 is also spotlight on James Robinson, who is another really funny and charismatic guy and a really good writer. And Starman is, I think, one of the best comics ever written, and he is the author of that. And he's done everything from Marvel, DC, Independent, Image, everything. And so he's
even done
fun.
some writing for movies and TV, hasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. So, yeah, just a really fun panel. We've never gone to any of his panels and not enjoyed him, even if we weren't really familiar maybe with the exact thing that he was talking about at that time or that topic. So, I think those are the main ones that stood out to me outside those rooms.
What about you, James?
Well, Sean took at least one of mine. So this is just we're pointing out stuff, right?
Yeah, just Dark
Good
Horse
stuff.
Good stuff.
I should not name a Dark Horse right now.
You can. I mean, that's what we're doing.
That means I could steal it first.
That's what I did.
Well, for the Dark Horse one, which one, I don't even know what this is going to be about, but I just get the feeling that there may be some fun stories to hear. Is that the stuntmen and stunt actors of your favorite movies panel, 12 p.m. through 2:11. I can just imagine that there would be some pretty good stories in that panel.
That was on my list, too. Don't they even have somebody from, like, Jurassic World?
I think so. There's a few people in there, and so I think that would be pretty awesome to see. But I'm sure someone else is going to point it out, so I'll wait till the end to point out any others and just go with that for now.
Okay. All right. Kim?
Well, I had on my list at 12:30 in room 213 is Costuming with the Rebel Legion and 501st. And I'm not a cosplayer, but I do appreciate Star Wars, and I've got a coworker and a good friend who are working on costumes to try to join the 501st, so I've learned a little bit about how particular they are that these costumes are right. So, they're going to be talking about how to get started and where to find help and tips, and it sounded really interesting to me, so I put that on my Dark Horse list. And do you want another one? Or can I steal from someone?
Let me do mine, and then we can
Okay.
do it. For me, in room 207 at 12 p.m. is Going Back to the Future, which is a Back to the Future documentary, and it's going to be the filmmakers there to discuss, and I love that movie, so it sounds pretty cool, actually.
Is it the Back in Time documentary?
Yeah, it's Back in Time, but it's basically a Back to the Future documentary, yeah. All right.
That's why I didn't mention it, because I knew someone would have probably come up with it.
All right, Kim.
You can DeLorean right here. I also had Star Trek, They're Not Really Dead as Long as We Remember Them, which I'm sure will be a little bit of a downer with recent events, but kind of, just that's the Star Trek family and where we've gone. So it's Chase Masterson, Robert Meyer Burnett, and a few others just talking Trek, and it looks really neat. So that's 1 p.m. in room 207.
Beth, we were going over the schedule a few days ago. Beth pointed out that isn't exactly the best title for a panel.
Yeah.
They could have said something a little softer than dead. So, yeah, it doesn't look like it's ever going to be it could be a very cathartic or happy panel, depending on how it goes. It's just the title probably could have been a little bit softer and not so harsh.
So what other Dark Horse panels do you guys have?
Can I mention one more?
Yeah.
At 7 p.m. is Surviving the Walking Dead, Understanding Behavior in a World Without Rules, which that's room 207, and has the panel of 3 forensic psychiatrists, which sounds really amazing, because I know I can't get through an episode of Walking Dead because I love it, but I can't get through an episode without thinking about how I would react in these situations. So, I love that survivalism. So that panel seems really, and they're talking about specific episodes. So maybe if you're not caught up, that might not be a great one for you. But
don't they even have one of the actors in there, or am I thinking of a different panel?
Yes, no, they do. Michael Cudlitz, if I'm pronouncing that right, plays Abraham. Or played Abraham. No spoilers, sorry. That panel looks really neat certainly for any Walking Dead fans out there.
James, do you have anything else?
The only other thing I had listed was the Tournament of Nerds from the Upright Citizens Brigade in room 207 at 8 p.m. That looked like it might be pretty fun because the UCB is usually a pretty good producer of comedy and content. So
yes, they are.
That might be something cool to check out in the evening.
All right. Well, before we move on to Saturday, we've got a couple quick questions. Janine actually already had her question answered, but I'm going to read it aloud in case anybody else has that question. She asked, what time can you pick up your badge for WonderCon on Thursday? And Jose Zamaro was nice enough to answer, and you can pick it up from noon to 7 p.m. on Thursday, but only if you have a 3-day or a Friday badge. So if you've got a Saturday badge only, you can't pick it up on Thursday. All right, and then Charlotte had a question about the hotel sale, and she asked, when entering the hotels I want, will the names of the hotels be the same as what we see on the price list, or do they vary from this? No, the names on the Travel Planners hotel list for Tuesday are going to appear exactly as they appear on that price list. So write down exactly as they appear on that list, so you know which letter to scroll down to. All right. You guys have anything else to add for Friday?
Nope.
One thing I was just going to say about registration for WonderCon, we just put up that visual guide to WonderCon, and registration is very different this year in terms of where it's set up, and we do recommend in that to go Thursday, definitely, if there's any way you can swing it, because it's just dead on Thursday, and it's great, and that's what we've tried to do in the past. But yeah, that's set up a little different. The floor is a little different too, so if people have not checked that out, they may want to stop by and look at that before they head out to Anaheim.
And we'll make sure that we put a link to that in the show notes. All right, James, you want to kick us off on Saturday in the Arena?
All right, Saturday in the Arena. Go back to that tab. Okay, so it's getting a late start on Saturday, 12:30. Convention opens at 10 a.m., from what I recall. And the first thing up is Warner Brothers with absolutely zero information from 12:30 to 1:30.
We're going to talk about this a lot more in probably our first real podcast that we do, but This drives me insane. I hate this. And
Yes.
you guys know I hate this.
I'm pretty sure most people share your opinion.
Like,
So.
I understand.
We'll rant later.
I know. Okay. But let's talk a little bit about what might possibly be there.
I don't know. What might be there?
So, Warner Brothers has quite a couple things coming up. I heard Jermaine from Slash Film suggested that they wouldn't be bringing anything here that they'd be bringing to Comic-Con, but I don't necessarily feel that's true, because I feel like there's quite a bit of overlap every year between the movie panels at WonderCon and the movies at Comic-Con. I feel like a lot show up in both places, so that opens the list pretty wide. I think the thing that makes the most sense would be Mad Max Fury Road, which comes out on May 15th. I mean, it'll be about 5 weeks before that, so that seems like a decent time to bring that out.
A really good choice.
Yeah. And then some other options are San Andreas comes out on May 29th, which has, I believe, The Rock.
Yes.
Yes, it does. All right.
Yes,
so,
and a cast of thousands, apparently,
Yes.
or something.
There you go. So I could see that being there. Some other options are The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which comes out in August. I don't really see them bringing Pan with Hugh Jackman, which is basically a Peter Pan update, but it's possible. Who knows?
I would really like there to be an Entourage panel.
I think a lot of people would, but I don't know.
It doesn't
don't
fit,
know.
but it kind of fits because I know they went to a
know.
convention at one point in one of their episodes, so I haven't watched it in years, but I'm getting kind of excited for the movie.
I love the show. I would love to see that there. I just don't know if I think they'd bring that.
It's so hard because it says TBA. You just don't know.
I know. We hate TBA.
Of the ones mentioned so far, I think Mad Max is probably the one that has the best chance, just because of the type of movie it is, and that they brought it to Comic-Con last year. And yes, they do actually repeat things. And it's the closest one, big one coming. After WonderCon.
Yeah. So that's probably what I think will wind up being there. It's not that long of a panel. It's only an hour. So I think at most they could probably bring 2 movies if they did them quick.
Right. If they do it Comic-Con style, yeah, 2. If they just do it, a normal panel, then it'll be just the 1.
Yeah. So we don't know. But
can I ask a quick question? Last year didn't I know they were with Legendary last year and they won't be this year, but it started at 10, didn't it? And it was a very long block of time that I recall.
they had a I think every studio had at least an hour to an hour and a half, if not 2 hours for Warner Brothers. They were long sections with lots of little panels into it, so there was 2 or 3 for every one.
Was WB even there last year? I thought it was just Fox.
Fox had a big one.
Yeah.
WB might have been there. I'd have to go look real quick. I still have all the photos listed. So.
I thought it was Warner Brothers with Legendary, is what I remember, but I could be wrong. Likely.
I remember Fox.
No, Warner Brothers was there because there was Edge of Tomorrow, Godzilla. Those are Warner Brothers.
Yes, you are correct.
Well, Godzilla was Legendary, which doesn't have a presence this year.
Correct.
There was How to Train Your Dragon, Into the Storm.
Yes.
Lucy, Maze Runner, X-Men, Planet of the Apes. There was a lot of stuff on last year's Saturday.
It was amazing.
And there's definitely not that much this year. So why don't you tell us what is there?
Coming up next is Trailer Park. From 1:45 to 2:15, so that's a half an hour of commercials. Obviously, trailers are the awesomest commercials ever created, but they're still just commercials. So if you are looking to sit through the entire day, that is probably, if you're not too interested in the trailers, that is when you go and get your food for the day if you're having to go get it. Then at 2:30 is the iZombie special video presentation and Q&A. It looks like they're going to be doing, just a special video presentation, not saying what it is. Since they're showing the episode the day before, I'm guessing it's not going to be the same thing. The panel's only an hour. But they are going to have Rose McIver, Malcolm Goodwin, Rahul Kohli, Robert Buckley, David Anders,
Rob Thomas.
It closed on me, so I didn't get there. And Rob Thomas and Diane Ruggiero Wright, if I think that's how I pronounce her name. So that's a lot of people creating the show, so that should be, unless Warner Brothers brings something awesome, that may end up being the best panel of the day. It's a new show. Everyone so far that I've been seeing likes it. I'm actually interested in watching it, so hopefully that'll be a good one.
I think the next panel, though, is going to be bigger. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you that I think iZombie looks better, but...
But Gotham is coming up next at 3:45, and do we know anything about that, whether it's being picked up for Season 2 or anything like that?
I don't know that it's been picked up. I think we do know who's going to be on this panel, though.
Yeah, because it's not listed on the WonderCon site, but again, a press release may have gone out saying who's going to be on it.
Well, I think it's actually on CCI's site. Hold on.
Did they update it?
I think it was in the list the other day. You keep talking. I'm looking.
Right. Well, so Gotham, they showed that at Comic-Con, the premiere episode, and it's been doing well. I don't know exactly how well because I'm not watching it, but a lot of people say it was slow to start, and it's been getting well and getting better. But being a main DC series of the DC lot that's on TV right now, then it should gather a lot of attention on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think they're pretty sure. I mean, I don't know about if it's been informal, but I know Jada Pinkett Smith said she won't be back for Season 2, and they talked as if there would be a Season 2. So.
Okay, so here's who's going to be on the panel. It's going to be Ben McKenzie, who is the main guy on the show, Donald Logue, Robin Lord Taylor, and executive producer John Stevens. So that's...
So the star of the show is going to be in it, which is good.
Yeah.
It's always good to bring a star for a panel when you bring it to a convention. And then the final panel for the day is Blumhouse Productions' Unfriended and Insidious Chapter 3, which producer Jason Blum, or Bloom? I don't know. But anyway, 2 movies, horror movies. If that's your kind of thing, then you'll know all about it. And that looks to end the day. It's only an hour, so that means he'll just possibly be bringing out... yes, he will be bringing out cast members. It just doesn't say who in this listing on the sched. But that will end the day. And is the Masquerade happening in the arena this year, or is it in one of the smaller rooms? Because it's not listed on here. But if it's happening in the arena, that's why it's ending at 6 o'clock, and so they can change it over to get ready for the Masquerade. If it's not happening there, then it'll be in one of the 300 rooms.
It's not on the schedule.
Yeah, I didn't see it anywhere on the schedule, so it's possible why it's ending that early. So that's what's going on in the arena, and I think what we wanted to discuss is the fact that, as we mentioned, last year it started around 10 or 10:30, and it's starting at 12:30 this year. And we don't have any Fox, which Fox, as we mentioned, also had a very big presence last year, and they have nothing this year. And we're thinking maybe just things aren't finalized for them to put Fox on the schedule, which they could put it at 10 a.m. and have 2 hours to go. And maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't.
I think it's vaguely possible. We heard quite a bit of rumblings about them being there, but I feel like the fact that this schedule is so light, and the fact that they even already threw in a trailer park, to me says, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I think, unfortunately, this is just the Saturday schedule.
So it's a very light year on movies.
It's
there's almost nothing. It's almost all TV. So, obviously for those who are there for the comics and everything associated with it, and for some TV and other pop culture things, this is going to be probably the convention where you get to see a lot of the panels that you may have to struggle to see at Comic-Con because of all the tough choices you have to make.
Yeah.
So this is also a chance for you to actually go to those panels if you don't normally go, if you're sitting in a room all day waiting for something, and check out what's going on in the world of comics or elsewhere.
Yeah. I do think there's going to be a decent amount of crossover between iZombie and Gotham. So if you're planning to go to those, I might suggest showing up a little bit before iZombie. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be
If
Too
they
crazy.
do not announce what Warner Brothers is before the day, then it will be the same thing that happened at Thursday of Comic-Con when they brought the Interstellar. The
It'll be
room
empty.
will not be full.
Yep.
So pay attention if they don't announce a thing and you think there may be something there. It may be worth it to walk in maybe 10 minutes before it starts, because there'll be a room and you'll be able to see it even if you won't have the best seat.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee there will be room if they don't announce anything before the con starts.
I think you are 100% correct. All right, so let us move on to 300 AB. Who wants to take this? Kim? Sean?
I would say I'll take it if you want, because there's several that I have on my list.
Go for it. Go for it.
First up at 10 a.m. is Superman: The Richard Donner Years Celebrity Super Reunion. So it sounds fun. Margot Kidder, Sarah Douglas, Valerie Perrine, and it goes on. But yes, it sounds kind of one of those fun nostalgia type panels to revisit something old. So I definitely have that on my list. 11 a.m. we always go to this panel at WonderCon, usually San Diego, but Teen Titans Go. It's a screening and a Q&A. So unfortunately, it's just two of the main voice actors, so it's not quite the full crew that they've had sometimes in the past at both shows, but still it's always really funny, and they've got great rapport with the fans, so it's a fun one. At noon, there is Big Hero 6, The Art of the Story. Another one that kind of interests us. We like Big Hero 6 quite a bit. So it has the head of story, Joe Mateo, Brian Kessinger, and Norman LeMay, all who worked on Big Hero 6, and a couple of them also on Frozen. So they're going to be talking about going from concept to story. 1 o'clock is American Dad, so that's a show actually I've not watched very much. I'm not as familiar with it, but it has a handful of the voice actors and talent behind it: Wendy Shale, Rachel McFarlane, Scott Grimes, Matt Weissman, Jordan Bloom, and Marissa Rothman, all there. 2 p.m. is Convergence, which is the big DC thing going on this year in the comics. So they're going to be talking about what is happening. It's very timely, because that's these next couple months are when all of that's going down, where they're kind of reshaping the DC universe again. So a lot of the architects behind that, Jeff King, Jurgen, Scott Lobdell, Mark Andrecco, and Len Wein, will all be on hand there to talk about it. After that, 3 o'clock is Image Comics, where creators own everything, and particularly if you're a Walking Dead fan, that would be a great panel to go to, because Robert Kirkman will be there, and I don't believe he's on any of the other panels throughout the weekend, and it's tough to get to see him at Comic-Con, so this might be a good way to kind of sneak in, because it's a fairly large room, and some people may not read all the way through. But in addition, Ed Brubaker's an icon of comics, and Eric Stevenson will be there, Becky Cloonan, Dave Lapham, and Rick Remender, so it's a bunch of heavyweights on that panel.
Yeah, it's a good list of comic creators.
Yeah, it's a really, really good comic panel. So, I mean, it may still be a pretty competitive situation with Convergence being before, because we kind of have a whole block of big comic panels there with Convergence, and then Image, and then after that at 4 is Marvel, the next big thing, which they are looking at. They don't talk specifically about Secret Wars, which is their next big thing, but they do have editor Will Moss there, and then Sam Humphries is kind of one of their up-and-coming star writers. Greg Weisman of Young Justice and Spectacular Spider-Man and Star Wars Rebels fame will be there, and Rick Remender as well. So 3 big comic panels all in a row there.
Well, I just want to interject for a story real quick, because the first time I ever saw Sam Humphries was at Meltdown Comics in LA, at the Why the Last Man party, where Joss Whedon was going to be there, which is why I went, of course. But he was the comics curator of MySpace at the time, which was hilarious. I think it's hilarious now. Now he's a big time writer and everything for comics.
He. I think somewhere on one of my Dark Horse for the Days too, he has a spotlight panel or something. But he was also a podcast host on the Meltcast, which was their podcast, and he was great on that as well. So yeah, it's a good couple panels there in a row, and then Falling Skies is at 5 o'clock. So going to the final season of that. So it's not quite the all-star group in terms of the main actors that they've brought in the past to places, but it's Moon Bloodgood, Drew Roy, Doug Jones, Sarah Carter, and then director Tundi Osanami. I believe. So we've gone to Falling Skies panels several times and seen them at Comic-Con several times. And the one thing that is really cool with that group is they're super into their fans. And like one time at Comic-Con, even at a panel, they cut it off and everybody was trying to get people off the floor, and they stayed like 45 minutes after closing just to take time and pictures and stuff and sign. So they're a really good group. 6 o'clock, obviously a very big panel for the day, maybe too small of a room for it. Orphan Black, 300AB, with actually you guys are much bigger fans. Do you want to talk about that at all?
I will.
Okay,
I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically everyone except Tatiana Maslany, but it's Jordan Gavaris, who plays Felix, Dylan Bruce, who plays Paul, Maria Doyle Kennedy, who's Mrs. S, Evelyn Brochu, who's Delphine, and Kristen Brune, who's Donnie. That's basically, like I said, the entire cast except for Tatiana Maslany. This is way more people than they brought last year when they brought no one.
Wow.
They basically just had
They just had a screening and that was it.
They had the season premiere, and it wasn't even an advanced screening, I don't think. I think it was like
It was like a couple hours before?
Yeah, it was like an hour early, so it was nothing. But this is I agree. I think this is probably a little too small of a room.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Even with 1,500 people, this panel fills up like 3 hours early at Comic-Con.
Right.
So I don't think it'll fill up quite as early here. But if you want to go to this, I would say plan on being there maybe at like 4:30. I mean, do you guys think that's fair?
Probably, because Falling Skies will get a decent audience as well.
Yeah.
And who knows how many of them will leave.
Yeah, so maybe even show up at 4. But if this is on your priority list, like if this is really high, plan on showing up early.
If this is the panel you can't miss, then you need to make sure you devote the time.
Yes, agreed. And it's going to be awesome because they're a great group of people. They know how to put on a good show.
Yep.
Yeah, and that comic block, I mean, it's going to be crowded. Like there may be a decent turnover for some people, but those are all rooms that could be totally at capacity very easily. So, yeah, plan accordingly. At 7, then, finishing out the day in 300 AB is Crackle's Dead Rising Watchtower. Game on, the widely popular Capcom video game franchise Dead Rising rises to life. And so it's actor Jesse Metcalf, Megan Ori, Dennis Haysbert, Rob Riggle, and Zach Lipovsky.
Lipovsky, he's the director.
Oh, gotcha. And yeah, that finishes out it's streaming on Crackle, and that finishes out at 7 o'clock.
And if you want to know more about Dead Rising Watchtower, we actually interviewed Zach Lipovsky the other week, and you can find that on our site. But, yeah, I agree. Truthfully, especially with as weak as the arena schedule is, I think
this may be
whole
it.
day, yeah, I think this is actually going to be like the room to be in.
Yeah.
So.
Especially with starting out with the Superman panel, which I'm pretty excited for. And then going through a bunch of popular shows and comics and comic companies all the way to the Orphan Black. I mean, I would say that this room may have a decent amount of turnover, but it will also be full most of the time throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's talk about the next room. Let's talk about 300 DE. And I'll go ahead and take this one. At 10:30 a.m. is the World of Capcom. Hey, dog. And it's going to be Francis Mao. And he's basically just going to be talking, all about Capcom and what's coming up for them with all of their titles. And then at 11:30 a.m. we've got Felicia Day, and this is basically the Geek and Sundry panel. She's going to be talking about that, her new book. She's popular, Geek and Sundry is popular, this will be popular. At 12:30 is TNT's The Last Ship, which they were here last year as well, and they're bringing out quite a few stars. In fact, they're bringing out even more than they're bringing for Falling Skies. But they've got Adam Baldwin, Rona Mitra, John Piper Ferguson, Charles Parnell, Travis Van Winkle, and Jocko Sims. So that's a decent chunk of the cast. I don't know how totally popular that show is, but the fact that Adam Baldwin is even there means that people will probably turn out for that. And then at 1:30 is the exclusive screening of The Messengers, which I don't believe starts until later in April. I might be wrong about that. But they're bringing out basically the whole cast for that as well. And this is basically the CBS show. CBS typically brings a show every year. I think 2 years ago they brought Beauty and the Beast. Last year they brought The 100. This year they're bringing The Messengers. So it's got, like I said, basically the whole cast. Chantel Van Santen, who was on One Tree Hill, John Fletcher, J.D. Pardo, Joel Courtney, Diago Morgado, Anna Diop, Craig Frank. I don't know who any of those people are, but if you do, cool. And it'll be fun just to go and see a show before it airs on TV. And then there'll be a Q&A after. And then at 2:30 is a panel that I'm not entirely certain why it's here. Is NBC's American Odyssey. It's a pilot screening followed by a Q&A with the executive producers. And if you don't know what this is, it's basically, it's a little mini-series with Anna Friel, who I love Anna Friel, but she's not here. But it's a complex and exciting journey through global politics, corporate espionage, and military secrets involving three strangers who have only one thing in common, the truth. I don't understand why this is at WonderCon. I really don't. But
Yeah,
you can go see that
weird.
at 2:30. You can go see the whole pilot. And then at 3:45 is TV Guide Magazine's annual Fan Favorite Showrunners panel. And currently there's no one listed on it, but you can pretty much just take a look at the TV shows that are at the convention and assume that's who's going to be there. Like, I would be very surprised if Rob Thomas isn't there. Greg Berlanti, he's pretty popular. He's got some panels on Sunday, so if he's in town, I'd be surprised if he wasn't there. There's quite a few options for that one.
That's really all you have to do to figure out who's going to be there, at least a chance of being there.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, maybe if we're lucky, we'll even get the Orphan Black guys on there to talk some about that show. All right, at 4:45 is the annual Cartoon Voices led by Mark Evanier. If you've never been to one of these panels, they're a whole lot of fun. It's basically people in the voice animation business being crazy, and it's hysterical. At 5:45 is our friends from Warner Archive doing Toonstock, which is composers Christopher Carter, Michael McCuston, Lolita Ritmanis, Batman. It's basically they're going to be doing an exclusive sing-along with the Batman, the Brave and the Bold episode, Mayhem of the Music Meister. And it's going to be led by our friends Matt Patterson and D.W. Ferrani, and it's going to be fun. They're a great group of guys, so that's what's going on in 300 DE. You guys have anything else to say about those?
It's just probably going to... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say on the Felicia Day thing, as you said, she's really popular, and so if you're into that World of Capcom thing, just plan, because that's happened a few years now where, I remember, what was it, a year ago or 2 years ago, when Richard Hatch had like a Battlestar Galactica thing in there right before, and he was basically speaking to a room that didn't care at all about that, and they were just waiting that hour out. So if Capcom's your thing, be there quite early.
So they should have swapped those, really.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So... I don't think it's going to be too busy here. I think like you just said, Felicia Day is going to be packed. I think the last ship is probably going to be packed, and then after that, I don't think it's going to be that busy.
I walked into the last ship last year while it was running. Because I think they were showing the episode, and it was even in a smaller room. But it obviously might have had a year to grow a little bit more in popularity. And also last year, I think Adam Baldwin canceled out, so he wasn't going to be at that panel, which I think would have helped the lack of attendance in a con world. But yeah, I think Felicia and then TNT, or the last ship, probably will be the most crowded of the day, with Felicia's being the most crowded, maybe even impactful.
Yeah. I do think, depending on who they get, that TV Guide Magazine's Fan Favorite Showrunners panel might be worth going to, because you never know. They might get some of the people from your favorite shows, and they might talk about things that they wouldn't on their own panel. So. Yeah.
And of course, Cartoon Voices. Who knows how busy that one's going to be? But it'll be fun.
Yep. All right, Kim, do you want to wrap us up for Saturday in room 208?
Sure. Wait, let me find it. Oh, There's so many. At 10:30, we've got stop motion animation on a shoestring. Just tips and tricks on how to do stop motion animation on a low budget, as it sounds. But it sounds pretty neat. And then 11:30 is authors of fantasy fiction. From authors Arwen Ellis Dayton, The Seeker, Todd McCaffrey, Dragon Riders of Pern series, Naomi Novik from the, I'm going to say this wrong, the Temeraire series, and Greg Van Eekhout from California Bones, discussing their works. And, I lost it. 12:30 is Comics Marketing and PR 101. With PR people from Comixology and Dirk Wood from IDW, so and Mel Kalo from Boom, and they keep coming. Jamal Igley from looks like he writes for Molly Danger. Just wide-ranging discussion, kind of roundtable discussion of how to do PR in comics. So these are all so far kind of just panels you'd learn a lot from, really. And continues with 1:30 Ask an Agent, literary agent Holly Root, I lost it, with film agent Brandy Rivers, taking questions and discussing the wild world of manuscript curing, and the role of agents in the publication and film rights process. Oh, and
no pitches, please.
No pitches, please. Do not bring pitches to that panel. But lots of questions, I'm sure. And then a spotlight panel on Phil Noto. I don't know about him if anyone wants to chime in. Digital art looks like animation and digital art.
Yeah,
So,
he's just a very quite popular artist, but nothing that would, I don't think, pack the room in any crazy way.
How big is this room? This is one of the smaller.
300, a little under 300.
300. Okay. 3:30 is Spotlight on Greg Horn, a cover artist, also discussing illustrations. So those panels go well together. If you love art and comics, those would be some great ones to sit in on. 4:30 is Tarzan, John Carter, Doc Savage, The Shadow, and Alley Oop. The Martian Legion arrives. Does anyone know more than I do, probably, that wants to chime in?
It's basically the Edgar Rice Burroughs group. I know they do a panel every year at Comic-Con
they
too.
have a panel every year, yeah. So it's just basically an update on the things going on in that universe with all those different characters.
Yeah.
And I believe they got everything back from Disney now after the last John Carter thing, and they're trying to do their own thing to bring it back to a movie universe thing. So it could be interesting.
Oh, neat. So at 5:30 is Push Excellence Forward. The new Bill and Ted comics come to Boom Studios. So another Boom Studios panel.
Bill and Ted, come on, Bill and Ted.
Yeah, I think the comic actually just started coming out last month or this month, so it's current comic running right now.
Is it like the actors drawn from the movies sort of thing?
I think so.
I don't know.
You mean the characters from the movies?
Well, right. Is it?
Yeah, it's the characters from the movies basically in a sequel to the movies.
Fantastic. Most excellent return. Most triumphant return. So at 6:30 is A Mad World exploring insanity in fiction. From psychopathic villains to asylums for the criminally insane, mental health issues permeate television, film, and comics. I'm sure we see that in Gotham. It's just how realistic are these depictions. So a panel about discussing importance of accuracy and inclusion and the promotion of more psychologically dynamic characters in fiction.
It's got a lot of pretty good people on this panel.
Yeah,
too.
a large panel.
It's got yep.
I'm going to check that as being interested. And then 7:30 and 8:20 are two Nerdist panels, Nerdist Comics panel, and then at 8:20 is the Nerdist Writers panel. And that looks like the same people are on the panel.
Yeah, I was going to say on those, they'll bring in kind of whatever surprise guests, I guess, and they have a really good rapport in the writing community, so both of their podcasts that they do, they bring in some heavy hitters. So I would guess maybe some of the TV writers might show up to the 8:20, and definitely some of the bigger comic book guys, probably the 7:30.
Well, and if you notice, you've actually got about 3 hours there of Ben Blacker, the Thrilling Adventure Hour, because he's on both Nerdist panels and the Thrilling Adventure Hour panel.
So you just basically didn't take a seat and not move.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, Thrilling Adventure wraps up the day at a late panel at 9:10. And I don't know. They'll probably. I'm sure that'll be mayhem. But it's more of a panel than a performance. It looks like. But
yeah, it is. They are bringing some cast though. They just don't know which ones yet. Okay. It's still TBA.
But for the Thrilling Adventure fans, that since they're going to be stopping their show soon, that'll be one that can't be missed.
Yeah, we don't know yet if they're coming to Comic-Con. We've heard that they're trying, but this is probably going to be one of the last chances to really kind of see these people, even though it's not an actual show. If you've never been to the Thrilling Adventure Hour, it's a whole lot of fun, even just listening to them talk.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on Saturday. What else is going on, guys? What are your picks for some smaller rooms?
Who's going first?
I will.
Okay, go
ahead. Sean. Go, Sean.
The spotlight on Greg Weisman at 11:30 and 2:14 is a good one. Again, he's really big in animation, and so there's a lot there. He worked on Star Wars Rebels this last year, and at Long Beach Comic Expo, he promised that there will be a big announcement at that panel in terms of what he's going to work on next, so it could be something cool there. Koto Bukiya, which does a lot of the great statues we see and exclusives we see at Comic-Con every year. They're big. They have a spring preview there. So the Hulkbuster for the new Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Hulkbuster, Iron Man, and Hulk is something everybody's really salivating over, and I'm sure there'll be lots of good stuff there about that. And then Careers at Disney Studios at 11 and 2:07 is kind of interesting. They've done that a few times before. Whoops. Sorry, I knocked things over there. And then, and then as James was saying about Sam Humphries, just his spotlights at 12:30 and 2:13. And yeah, he's great. And one of the person moderating or interviewing him will be his old podcast host or co-host back when he was at Meltdown Comics, getting his start in comics and the MySpace era and all of that. So that should be kind of fun. And I'll save my dark horse this time.
All right, James, you want to go?
Well, I had the Disney one on my list, and I wanted to point out the Valiant 25th anniversary celebration, which, as we mentioned, they made that deal. So this is your second chance to catch up with the Valiant universe before they hopefully start getting big. Because I'm a real big fan of the Valiant comics, and I hope that hope they take off and produce some quality content in the in other media like they've been doing in the comic world.
Kim, what's your dark horse?
I didn't do my dark horse.
Oh, you didn't do your dark horse? Well, then do your dark horse.
Okay, well that might have been. But okay, so the anti-heroes panel, 207. Ha!
That was my dark horse.
At noon. It looks really interesting.
Yeah.
Talking about anti-heroes, but because it also has just a nice range of panelists with James Robinson as the moderator, and Colin Bunn, Neil Adams, Len Wein, Dan Jurgens, basically just a bunch of heavy hitters in the comic world. There's going to be talking about the anti-hero, and I think it just looks really cool.
Yeah, if you're a TV or movie fan, I mean, those are like the creators of Ra's al Ghul and Wolverine and Storm and Nightcrawler and Colossus and Jon Stewart, Green Lantern. It's like that's a really amazing panel for comic fans or TV fans of superheroes, or movies, I should say.
All right, Kim, do you want to give your dark horse? Your mic's not on.
I fixed. I had on here Art Department of Babylon 5 Reunite, because it's been a few years since we've had a Babylon 5 panel, and I've only seen a few episodes of that show, but I know how important it is, and there's 2 art directors, prop master, and illustrator from the show appearing, so certainly for Babylon 5 fans, that one that can't be missed. So, talking about something a little different than I've seen before about the show. And then I also had Celebrate Liberty, the CBLDF Live Art Jam, which is always a lot of fun for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. So you get art, and you get to learn a little bit about what's going on in the world, with censorship and what all that they deal with. So neat company, neat group.
Sean, did you actually give your Dark Horse? You didn't, right?
Mine was
I stole
the
it.
Anti-Heroes, but
Gotcha.
let me see if I had any. No, that's literally everything I was interested in got talked about at one point or the other.
Okay, well, there's two things I wanted to mention on Saturday. One is the Her Universe fashion show update in the Elite Ballroom, which is actually in the neighboring hotel, not in the convention center, at 11 a.m. And that's interesting mostly because it confirms that they'll be doing the Comic-Con fashion show again, and if you want to be a part of it, you can go to that panel and find out more. And then in room 207 at 1 p.m. is Adventure Time Comics, and they're not doing an Adventure Time panel this year, which don't they normally? Does anybody know?
I thought so.
I think they normally do, but they're not this year. So if you love Adventure Time, which I know a lot of people do, you can at least still get a little bit of your fix with that panel. So that's room 207, 1 p.m. Anybody have anything else for Saturday?
No, except for on the questions, Jose Zamora posted that the Masquerade is going to be in the arena. So that's why the stuff is ending at 6 o'clock, because they have to make sure it's ready for the Masquerade
At 8:30, yeah.
Yeah. They always need some time.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to Sunday then, which is the last day of panels.
Okay. Starting in the arena again. Yep. First up, the annual, now it seems, Nerdist panel with Chris Hardwick, Jessica Chobot, Brian Walton, Dan Casey, Malik Forte, Matt Grossinger, Kyle Hill, Rachel Hine, basically all of the people who host shows for Nerdist or podcasts. A lot of them are going to be there talking about the Nerdist industries and everything going on in the Nerdist world. That's at 11 a.m. At 12:15 is Powers, a sneak peek of the final episodes of Season 1. This is the PlayStation Network exclusive show.
Yep.
Based on a comic book by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Obing, who will be there. And the showrunner Charlie Houston and cast members Olesa Rulin and Logan Browning. They're going to showcase the remaining original episodes of the show, which is running, I think, right now. It's coming out. I think the first 3 episodes or so have already come out. But they'll be there for an hour. At 1:30 is the Flash video presentation and Q&A. It lists Danielle Panabaker, Candice Patton, Carlos Valdez for the cast, and Greg Berlanti and Andrew Kreisberg for the producers.
No Grant Gustin, though.
No Grant Gustin. It looks, again, like a special video presentation, so something different than the screening they're going to do a few days before, and a Q&A. That's also an hour. And then the final thing is at 2:45 is the encore screening of Batman vs. Robin with none of the cast members. Obviously, it's just going to be the screening, looks like.
And I don't think any of those will be that hard to get into.
No,
I know.
Flash maybe will be fuller than the rest, but I don't think the room will ever fill up.
I don't think so either. So if you want to go see any of those, you shouldn't have too difficult of a time.
I would say you probably, if you don't care where you sit, I think it's just show up when it starts. Yep. Find a seat 2 minutes before and you're fine.
Yep, I agree. All right.
On the Powers panel, probably people would know, but Brian Michael Bendis is really hard to see at anything, and he's about as prolific as it gets in comics currently.
Isn't he one of the 4 members of the guiding force of the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the very few that gets to access to all of that, and the TV and the animation and everything. So he kind of has the keys to the kingdom in a lot of ways, and He pretty much is retired from conventions for the most part. So he made a really rare appearance at Comic-Con last year, and this is another really rare appearance. So yeah, if you're interested in that, that would be a good opportunity to see him. Because I agree, I think you could just walk in at any time and be able to see him.
Okay, well, let's move on to room 300 AB. Kim, do you want to take this one? I think this has some stuff you'll be interested in.
I was muted again. I was going to say thank you. It's nice and short. So at 10:30, we've got DreamWorks Animation bringing us Dragons, Dinos, and More, which is the Dragons Race to the Edge and Dino Trucks, which looks like 2 original series for Netflix that they're doing, or at least Dragons Race to the Edges. I'm not quite sure, but and then glimpses to other fan favorites that they're working on, and other surprises that they promise. Then at 11:30, we've got the world premiere of Batman Unlimited Animal Instincts. Let's see.
Looks like it's a game.
Screenwriter, Warner Home Entertainment, so movie. So
Yeah.
Okay.
direct to DVD movie. Roger Craig Smith, voice of Batman in that, Yuri Lowenthal, and screenwriter Heath Corson, plus other guests. So there's a cat behind me. That's great. And then at 1 is Warner Archive, or Friends at Warner Archive, bringing us. I can't scroll down that far to see what they're bringing us.
They are bringing us More Than Sidekicks, which it's basically going to be a whole bunch of sidekicks from their things over the years. I've been told that Lauren Lester doesn't make that many convention appearances, so that's apparently exciting. J.M. DeMatteis will be there. D.W. Ferranti and Matthew Patterson are hosting again. Go ask them about a Norfoon for me.
Norfoon!
Yes.
I had to find out what a Norfoon was. I also did not know. Everyone should know. So then at 2 we've got the runring.net. They seem to they have an annual panel, I think. So this one is the Secrets Behind the Hobbit. Their panels are usually a whole lot of fun because it's fans talking to fans about Tolkien's works. And this one just talking more about the Hobbit trilogy, and I'm sure
they had a reporter who was able to be on set most of the time, so this is basically just talking about how the movie was made and decisions that were made, and opinions, guesses, and stuff that they saw firsthand. So hopefully it'll be an interesting panel if you're interested in the Hobbit and behind-the-scenes stuff from the making of those movies.
So yeah, I had that one marked down. I want to hit that one up. And then at 3 p.m. is the sing-along from Whedonopolis and Fandom Charities with Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, The Classic. So it's always a lot of fun.
And this is actually your second Neil Patrick Harris sing-along for the week, the other one being the first Warner Archive panel on Saturday.
Is MPH in that?
He is.
Say, one of the voices in the episode?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
So, all right. Then we've got room 300 DE, which I'm going to take. 10:30 is Image Comics, which has some pretty decent names. It's got Becky Cloonan, Fred Van Lent, Dustin Nguyen, and basically they're just going to be talking about their sci-fi comics. So if you like those people, it should be fun. And then at 11:30, we've got Nobility. These aren't the heroes you're looking for, which has it's a new
people.
Yeah, it's a new sci-fi dramedy called Nobility, which is dubbed Firefly Meets The Office, and it's got a whole bunch of people, including Doug Jones, Christopher Judge, Walter Koenig, Tori Higginson, quite a few people. You can go see the full list over on my Sked, but that should be fun. And then at 12:30, Richard Hatch has a panel pretty much every year, and this is going to be it. It's Battlestar in Crisis. And he's going to be hosting a Q&A where he just talks about the fate and the future of Battlestar Galactica. Again,
I appreciate that he changes the panel's name every year and, discusses hopefully something different every year. So,
yeah.
it's a Battlestar panel, but he's at least changing the name and maybe discussing actual current stuff of what's going on in the Battlestar world since he's so attached to it.
Yeah, he is. And I don't know the exact times, but I do know he will be signing autographs on the floor at some point. 1:30 is Monster Hunter, which is the critically acclaimed 3DS game. And so you can go talk to some Capcom people about that at 1:30. And then at 2:30 is Honest Trailers and Screen Junkies, which I don't know that much about this, but a lot of people on Twitter are super excited about this. So,
Honest trailers are pretty fun.
all right. And then at 3:30 is Gay Online, which is... Somebody else want to talk about this? Anybody? We know what this is?
It's where you get Gaia staff, burning questions answered, and sneak peek at some of the stuff coming from Gaia Interactive.
All right, and that is all that she wrote for 300 DE on Sunday. The last panel is going to wrap up around 4:30. All right, Sean, you want to talk about 208?
208, yep. Pulling it up. Alrighty, so on Sunday, it begins at 10:30 with End Bullying, Responding to Cruelty in Our Culture. So this is one of the kind of public service announcement type panels where they're going to look a little bit at obviously the psychology behind bullying and what goes on there and maybe what role geeks and nerds can play in solving that problem a little bit. At 11:30, another one of the big spotlight panels. There's actually, I believe, two pretty big ones in this room for the weekend. Is Spotlight on Dan Jurgens. So he's a big part of DC past and in the future as well with Convergence. So he'll be in there at 11:30. At 12:30, Spotlight on Tom King, my very first comic book year, and it's very interesting with him. He was a former CIA agent, a former spy, and he recently left about a year or so ago, and now he writes comics, and so it's interesting kind of bringing that perspective into the DC universe, so that'll be interesting to kind of hear him at his first big panel. At 1:30, Spotlight on Len Wein. Again, we've talked about him a few times, but the creator of Wolverine says a lot there. He's a comic icon. 2:30, sneak peek, Space Goat Publishing launch panel. Take a look at the new line of comics coming this summer from Space Goat Publishing and get your questions answered. Obviously at Comic-Con and at WonderCon, all these cons, it's nice places to kind of pick up new material from startups, and so Space Goat is not a big name in there, but it's out there. It also talks about a sneak peek at their Evil Dead 2 comic series coming in June to coincide with the Stars TV series. And then 3:30 to 4:30, how to create your own novel from the first idea to publishing and what you need to sell your work to TV and film with the Winter Twins. So the Winter Twins are young writers. Richard Hatch is also on the panel, and so they're going to be talking just about selling those ideas and kind of converting them. And then it finishes up at 4:30 with Comic-Con International always has these talkbacks, so it's WonderCon Anaheim talkback for the last half hour where you can go and kind of share your thoughts on how the show went and any suggestions that you might have.
Cool.
And that wraps Sunday.
All right. So, what are your dark horse picks for Sunday?
I'm going to go because no one said anything.
Go.
1 p.m., room 211, Building My First Lightsaber with Kevin J. Anderson. He's written tons of novels, including the Dune sequels, Star Wars novels, just a ton of stuff. And he's going to be talking about his career starting as a fan and all the way up until working with all these major franchises. And, it'd probably be interesting. He probably has, again, another person with a lot of good stories to tell. I've actually met Kevin Anderson. He actually stopped by the Brown Coat booth a few times back in the day, and he's a really nice guy. And I think it'd be pretty fun to sit and listen to him talk about his life in fandom and writing for it.
I'll go staying in that same room at 11 a.m. earlier in the day at Comics Life for Me, the road from fan to pro. So there's some interesting people on there that are a little bit smaller in their publication history, but that have made good starts with the Jamal Igle for Molly Danger and Molly Mahan, Arun Singh, Dirk Wood. He's the from IDW, VP of Marketing. So just a kind of an interesting collection of people that aren't necessarily as common names as some of the other comic people we've highlighted, but I think it could be a really good panel.
Kim, what's yours? Kim?
Doing it again. Sorry. I'm just kicking back listening to everyone. I wrote down the IDW Kids and Comics, room 213 and 130.
You took mine.
I'm sorry. Because there's reasons for this, though. Although Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the comic has become quite dark. It's when I read, I really love it. So I don't know if it's appropriate for kids anymore. But they have so many fan titles, and you can probably maybe speak to it a little bit more, Carrie. With it sounded like it'll be a fun panel.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some really good titles in there, like My Little Pony, Skylanders, Angry Birds. If you've got kids, they're gonna love this. Go have fun. So, since you took mine,
sorry.
I'm basically gonna say on Sunday, don't go to one of these little panels. Go to the show floor because you're gonna get some great deals. Yeah. That's about all I have to say. All right, what other panels on Sunday? Do you guys have anything?
I got nothing. Sunday's a very light day.
It's really
That's
light.
all I had.
If Sean has nothing else, it is so light. So basically what that means, though, is on Sunday everybody's either going to be on the show floor or outside taking cosplay photos. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, James?
Yeah. So out in front of the convention center and also in the main lobby all the way up and down wherever it's happening but mainly outside in the front near the fountain. It's just tons of people out dressed up, and your perfect opportunity to get as many cosplay photos as you want. People will be hanging out there all day long, but at the end of the day, and especially at the end of the day, like Sean was mentioning to me the other day, at the end of the day on Sunday, even up to 2 hours or so past the show closing, people will be out there hanging out, taking cosplay photos because they're nowhere to go now. So if you are into cosplay and you have filled up your weekend with panels and such, at the end of the show on Sunday is a perfect chance to go out and just see all the different costumes wandering around. And also after the masquerade, the people from the masquerade may bring their costumes out the next day as well.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else they want to say about Sunday or about WonderCon in general?
Yes, the show is rather light on movies, but as Sean pointed out, it's very heavy on comics. Tons to do. There will be a dealer room, and it's according to Comic-Con, they're using rooms a little differently, and there's going to be more room for vendors, so it may be a little bit larger floor. So there will be deals that'll be like, it's basically, we call it Comic-Con Light, and it really is, but it also is a completely different animal. It's got a different feel than Comic-Con, with it's so much more packed into just the convention center and out front, and maybe the hotel across the way now, and so it's definitely a different feel. It's much more confined to that. So
it's a lot less stressful too, though.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not hard to do. All right, Sean, do you have anything you want to add about WonderCon?
Just that this is the show we usually find that people they don't plan very well for. They spend so much time planning for, obviously, San Diego, things like that, and then we find a lot of people are disappointed in how they handled things. They didn't expect that this panel would be that crowded or that the floor would be this busy or whatever, so we always just suggest really taking time. But if somebody's listening to this podcast, then I'm guessing they're the type of people that do take time to plan, so they're probably not. But if you have friends, it's a good recommendation to plan for this one. And I think particularly this year, because of Celebration, Star Wars Celebration being just 2 weeks after, I know for a lot of people, I know us included, we are way more kind of in the mode of Star Wars Celebration, I think, and thinking about that maybe than WonderCon. So I have a feeling that there's going to be even more shock for some as they maybe show up to, whatever it is, the Orphan Black panel or whatever, and think they could just walk in because they don't think it's going to be as crazy as some of the other shows. But WonderCon, as we all know, it does sell. It will be sold out. It will be packed, and if it's a little bit lighter on the Hollywood, that usually just means the floor is that much more crowded. So you really need to plan even that much more your schedule in some of those ancillary panels and things like that.
Well, in a way, I don't even know that it's necessarily lighter on the Hollywood, because I feel like there's a lot more TV stuff this year than there was last year. So I feel, even though Fox isn't here and even though WB is TBA, I feel like the TV stuff is actually really pretty strong this year.
Okay.
But so to wrap this up, we've got a couple quick notes to let you guys know. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. We haven't started sending those out yet this season, but we'll be starting those up pretty soon, and then that'll be a weekly thing. It's a great way to keep up with all the news that we post, because we know it's hard to keep up with everything related to San Diego Comic-Con. And also, sometime next month, we don't have an exact date, but our regular weekly podcast episodes will be starting up again, and we'll let you know as soon as we know about that. I also wanted to remind you guys that right now you can go onto our site and sign up to win a set of Firefly Funko Pops. You can do that through, I believe you can do that through March 28th. So all you have to do is go. You can tweet something, you can follow us, you can even just visit our Facebook page to be entered for a chance to win those. And it's not US only, we'll ship those anywhere. And then I also just wanted to mention that as we announced a few weeks ago on our open registration podcast, we are going to be crowdfunding our reader party this year, and we're going to need your support to make it happen in a bigger venue than ever before. And we know that you guys want to be able to fit more people in easier just as much as we do, but we will have some more details on that very soon. And thank you for listening this week. James, where can our listeners find more of your work?
On Twitter and Flickr and everywhere. My username is Dan Regal, and our website for my wife and I's mine, however you say that, photo business is geekshotphoto.com.
Sean, where can our listeners find you?
Parksandcons.com, where we cover all the conventions we can get to and theme park stuff, and then Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of those, and we have a podcast also on iTunes. And Carmel and I will do a little WonderCon prep one too that'll focus a little more on some of just convention 101 and the floor, and touch lightly on the panels, but not so much, more a little bit of the outside area and things like that too. So if interested, check it out. And
just to reiterate what you said earlier, also make sure that you check out Sean's WonderCon visual guide, which we'll put the links to that in the show notes. Kim, where can our listeners find you?
I am outside Comic-Con on Facebook and on Twitter.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. You can also find the blog on Twitter at SD_comic_con, or you can find us on Facebook at SDConblog. You can also find us on our website at sdccblog.com. We're also on iTunes. If you would like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or search for SDConCast on iTunes. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can send an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. And thanks for listening, and until next week, everybody
Go Shawarma!
Shawarma!
That's, you gotta work on